Both engines are dead. We're gliding. 214 souls on board. We're going to crash. Captain Hammond's voice was shaking. Then a child's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, this is seat 14A. My call sign is Eaglet. I haven't spoken in 3 years. But I can land this aircraft. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Wednesday morning broke clear and cold over Denver International Airport. The kind of morning pilots dream about, visibility unlimited, winds calm at ground level, temperature a crisp 58 degrees Fahrenheit. The Rocky Mountains stood sharp and clear against the western horizon, their snow-capped peaks gleaming in the early sunlight like jagged teeth biting into a flawless blue sky. Perfect flying weather. Captain Lisa Hammond walked through Terminal B at 6:15 a.m., her rolling suitcase clicking rhythmically against the polished floor tiles, her United Airlines uniform crisp and professional despite the early hour. At 54 years old, with salt and pepper hair pulled back in a regulation bun and reading glasses perched on her nose, she carried herself with the confident ease of someone who'd made this walk thousands of times. 32 years of flying. 18,500 hours logged across her career. She'd flown everything from tiny regional jets to wide-body 777s on international routes. Denver to Boston, Flight 1847, was a route she could fly in her sleep. She'd made this exact trip 127 times in the past 3 years alone. Today would be number 128. She had no idea it would be the flight that defined her entire career. Her first officer, Marcus Webb, was already at Gate B-34 when she arrived, standing near the podium with his tablet open, reviewing the flight plan. At 38 years old, Webb was former Air Force, 11,000 hours total time, 2,400 of those in military aircraft before he transitioned to commercial aviation. Sharp eyes, military haircut, shoulders that still carried the ramrod posture of his service days. He looked up from the tablet and nodded professionally. Morning, Captain. Weather's absolutely perfect, clear skies all the way to Boston. Light headwinds, nothing significant. Aircraft's a dream too. Hammond set down her suitcase. Which bird do we have today? November 718 Uniform Alpha. 6-year-old 757-200, just came out of scheduled maintenance yesterday afternoon. Every system checked out perfectly. New tires, fresh hydraulic fluid, engines inspected and certified. It's as close to factory new as a 6-year-old aircraft gets. Hammond smiled. Those are the flights I like, Marcus. Boring and perfect. She had absolutely no idea how catastrophically wrong she was. The gate agent, a cheerful woman in her 30s named Rebecca, was already beginning the boarding process. Good morning, Captain Hammond, First Officer Webb. We're looking at a full flight today, all 214 seats sold. We've got 3 unaccompanied minors, 2 passengers requiring wheelchair assistance, and 1 passenger with a severe nut allergy, so we've made an announcement about peanuts. Sounds routine, Hammond said. Let's get them loaded and get out of here on time. The boarding process began at 6:45 a.m., exactly on schedule. Business travelers in expensive suits typing furiously on laptops as they walked down the jetway, already working before the flight even began. Families with small children struggling with car seats and diaper bags, parents looking frazzled and exhausted. College students in university hoodies, headphones on, completely absorbed in their phones. An elderly couple holding hands, moving slowly, taking their time. A mother traveling alone with twin toddlers who were already crying. A businessman who'd clearly had too much coffee, jittery and impatient. And somewhere in the middle of the boarding line, almost invisible among the crowd, a teenager traveling alone. Alex Morrison. Age 14. Thin build, barely 110 pounds soaking wet, with short dark hair cut in a style that could be read as either masculine or feminine, intentionally androgynous. Wearing an oversized black hoodie that hung past their hips, faded jeans with holes in the knees, and beat-up sneakers covered in intricate hand-drawn sketches of airplanes, F-15s, Boeing 757s, Cessnas, all drawn with remarkable technical precision. A worn backpack slung over one shoulder, bulging with contents. Headphones, massive over-ear headphones, the kind that completely block out the world, covering their ears. Eyes down, avoiding all eye contact, moving through the boarding process like a ghost. The gate agent, Rebecca, smiled warmly when Alex approached. "Good morning, sweetheart. Traveling alone today?" Alex nodded but didn't speak. Just held up a boarding pass printed on standard paper. Rebecca's smile faltered slightly. "Okay, honey. You're in seat 14A, window seat in economy. Do you need any help finding it?" Alex shook their head silently and walked down the jetway without a word. Rebecca turned to her colleague, a younger man named David, and whispered, "Poor kid. Unaccompanied minor. Didn't say a single word. Must be really shy." David glanced at the boarding manifest. Alex Morrison, age 14, traveling to Boston to visit grandmother. Medical notes say, selective mutism, communicates through writing. Sad. "Make sure the flight attendants know," Rebecca said. "Keep an eye on that one. Kid probably needs extra attention." Neither of them had any idea that the quiet teenager in the oversized hoodie was about to become the most important person on that aircraft. Alex found seat 14A and slid into the window seat, immediately pulling the backpack onto their lap like a protective shield. The businessman who would occupy 14B hadn't boarded yet. The woman who'd sit in 14C was still somewhere in the boarding line. For a few precious minutes, Alex had the row to themselves. They unzipped the backpack and looked at the contents, items that had become as familiar as breathing over the past 4 years. 3 flight simulator manuals, Boeing 757 operations, Boeing 737 operations, and emergency procedures for commercial aircraft. Pages worn soft from constant reading, margins filled with handwritten notes in tiny, precise handwriting. A worn leather logbook with "Flight Hours, 1847" written on the cover in faded gold lettering that was peeling away at the edges. Inside, page after page of meticulously logged flight time. Date, aircraft type, flight conditions, procedures, practice, instructor notes, all written by Alex themselves, mimicking their father's handwriting from memory. A photograph in a clear plastic sleeve to protect it from wear, Colonel James Eagle Morrison in full Air Force dress uniform, standing in front of an F-15 Eagle fighter jet, American flag in the background. Late 30s, dark hair going gray at the temples, sharp eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, which he was doing in the photo. Strong jaw, confident posture, hands clasped behind his back in formal military stance. The photo was taken 3 months before he died. Alex stared at the photo the way other teenagers might stare at their phones, completely absorbed, finding comfort in the familiar image. "Miss you, Dad," Alex thought, not for the first time that morning. "Flying to Boston to see Grandma. She misses you too. She still cries when she talks about you." The businessman arrived and squeezed into seat 14B, immediately pulling out his phone and beginning a loud conversation about quarterly earnings projections, completely ignoring the teenager beside him. A few minutes later, a woman in her 50s settled into 14C, opening a magazine about home gardening, also paying no attention to Alex. Neither of them knew they were sitting next to the most experienced pilot in their row, more experienced in certain critical scenarios than the 2 people in the cockpit. Flight attendant Sarah Chen came down the aisle, checking overhead bins and making sure everyone was settled. When she reached row 14, she noticed Alex and smiled warmly. "Hi there, sweetheart. You doing okay? Need anything before we take off?" Alex looked up and held up a pre-written note on a white index card. The handwriting was small and precise. "No thank you. I have social anxiety and selective mutism. I communicate through writing. I'm fine, but thank you for asking." Sarah's expression immediately softened with sympathy. Oh, honey. That's completely okay. You don't worry about a thing. You just let me know if you need anything at all, alright? Press the call button anytime, or write me a note, or whatever works for you. We're here to help. Alex nodded and offered a small, genuine smile. Sarah patted Alex's shoulder gently. You're a brave kid, traveling alone. Your family must be proud of you. She moved on down the aisle, thinking, poor kid. So young to be dealing with something like that. Must be so hard, not being able to talk to people. I hope they're okay up there all alone. What Sarah didn't know, what nobody on this aircraft knew except Alex themselves, was that Alex Morrison wasn't just another anxious teenager struggling with communication. Alex was the most experienced pilot on United Flight 1847. More logged hours in engine failure scenarios than Captain Hammond. More emergency procedure practice than First Officer Webb. More engine-out gliding experience than any commercial pilot currently alive. Because for 4 years, since the age of 10, Alex Morrison had been flying in secret. Training in simulators under a false adult identity. Logging hours that technically shouldn't exist. Practicing emergency procedures over and over and over again. All to honor the memory of a father who taught them that knowledge is survival, and that someday, maybe, they might be the only person who could save lives when everything went wrong. Today was that day. Alex just didn't know it yet. 4 years and 3 months earlier, Buckley Space Force Base, Colorado, summer. Alex. Come here, kiddo. I need to show you something. 10-year-old Alex Morrison ran across the hot tarmac, sneakers slapping against concrete that shimmered with heat waves in the afternoon sun. The air smelled like jet fuel and hot metal, a smell that would forever mean home to Alex. Colonel James Eagle Morrison wasn't just Alex's father. He was Alex's entire world. Hero, teacher, protector, best friend. The only person who truly understood that Alex didn't talk much, not because of rudeness or defiance, but because words felt physically impossible sometimes. Like trying to push through a thick wall of invisible resistance. Anxiety made speech feel dangerous, exposing, terrifying. Eagle never pushed Alex to talk. Never made Alex feel broken or wrong. He just understood. And taught. He was kneeling now beside an F-15 Eagle fighter jet, the aircraft that had given him his call sign, its sleek gray body gleaming in the sunlight, weapons pylons empty during this peacetime training period, cockpit canopy open. 10-year-old Alex was still small enough that Eagle could lift them easily, setting them on his knee so they were eye-level with each other. You know why they call me Eagle? He asked, his voice warm and patient. Alex shook their head. Back then, Alex still spoke occasionally, short sentences, usually only to Eagle or Mom, but words were always hard. Anxiety made every conversation feel like standing on the edge of a cliff. Because eagles don't panic when the wind stops, Eagle explained, gesturing up at the sky where a real eagle was circling on a thermal column, barely flapping its wings. Most birds, when they lose the wind, they flap frantically. They panic. They waste energy. But eagles? They glide. They read the air. They find thermals, columns of rising warm air. They use mountain wave lift. They trust their wings and their training. He pointed to the F-15 behind him. When you're flying a fighter jet and your engines quit, which happens more than people think, kiddo, you become a glider. A very heavy, very fast glider. You don't panic. You don't freeze. You calculate. You read the invisible sky. You find every bit of lift you can. You make every decision count. You land. You survive. Eagle pulled out his personal laptop, the one he used for flight planning, and opened a sophisticated flight simulator program. I'm going to teach you something most pilots never learn, Alex. I'm going to teach you how to fly when everything fails. Not because you'll ever need it, God willing, you'll never need it. But because knowledge is survival. And I want you to survive everything life throws at you. I want you to be ready for anything. That was the beginning. For the next 3 years and 2 months, from age 10 until Eagle's death when Alex was 13, they flew together every single weekend that Eagle wasn't deployed. Real Cessna 172s at private airstrips where Eagle's Air Force buddies looked the other way because who was going to tell a decorated fighter pilot colonel no when he wanted to teach his kid to fly? Sophisticated commercial flight simulators running Boeing 757 and 737 programs that Eagle borrowed from commercial training centers, calling in favors from pilot friends who owed him. Emergency procedures drilled until they became muscle memory. Engine failures practiced until Alex could handle them in their sleep. Hydraulic malfunctions, electrical failures, navigation system breakdowns, complete avionics failures. Dead stick landings, landing with no engine power at all, just gliding. Alex logged hours. Real hours. Documented hours. By age 11, 400 hours. By age 12, 850 hours. By age 13, 1,200 hours. More flight time than many licensed private pilots. More emergency procedure practice than most commercial pilots get in their first 5 years of flying. Eagle was patient, methodical, demanding but never harsh. He taught the way he flew, with precision, confidence, and absolute focus. When words were too hard for Alex, which was most of the time, they communicated through sign language that Eagle had learned specifically to make Alex comfortable. Or through written notes. Or through the universal language of aviation, instruments, procedures, checklists. In the cockpit, communication was clear and structured. Alex, what's your airspeed? Eagle would ask, pointing at the airspeed indicator. Alex would point back and sign, 120 knots. Good. What happens if you lose 10 knots in this configuration? Sign, stall warning activates. Potential stall. Right. So what do you do? Sign, nose down slightly to increase airspeed. Add power if available. Recover before full stall develops. Perfect. Now show me. And Alex would demonstrate, hands on the controls, making small, precise adjustments, feeling the aircraft respond. Eagle made Alex practice one specific scenario over and over and over, dual engine failure at cruise altitude, emergency glide to landing. After the 50th practice run, Alex asked, using sign language because verbal words were still too difficult. Why this one so much, Dad? We've done this 50 times. Eagle signed back, because this is the scenario that kills people, Alex. When both engines quit and you're miles from any airport, most pilots panic. They make bad decisions. They crash. But if you've practiced it enough times, muscle memory takes over. You don't panic. You calculate. You execute. You survive. By the time Alex had practiced that scenario 100 times, it was automatic. By 200 times, Alex could do it with eyes closed, just listening to the instruments and feeling the aircraft. By 394 times, the number Eagle made Alex reach before he was satisfied, Alex could execute a perfect engine-out gliding landing in a Boeing 757 simulator with better precision than most commercial pilots. After the 394th practice run, Eagle pulled Alex into a hug. You know why I'm teaching you all this, kiddo? Alex shook their head against Eagle's chest. Because when everything dies and everyone panics, the person who's practiced this exact moment will save everyone. Someday, God forbid, hopefully never, you might be that person. You might be the only person in a situation who knows what to do. And when that day comes, if it ever comes, you'll remember, Eagle taught you to fly when the engines quit. Eagle taught you to be calm when everyone else loses their mind. Eagle gave you the knowledge to save lives. Alex looked up at their father with wide eyes. But I'm just a kid. I don't even talk to people. How could I save anyone? Eagle smiled and signed, "Heroes don't have to be loud, Alex. They just have to know what to do when the moment comes. And you know. I've made sure you know." That conversation happened on July 13, 4 years ago. The next day, July 14, Eagle died. July 14, 4 years ago, training mission, 2:47 p.m. Eagle's F-15 suffered catastrophic dual-engine failure at 18,000 feet during a routine training flight over Colorado. The radio transmission was calm, professional, exactly what you'd expect from a pilot with Eagle's experience and 4,200 flight hours. Tower, Eagle 1, experiencing dual-engine flameout, both engines unresponsive. I'm gliding, attempting emergency restart procedures. In the control tower, the air traffic controller's heart rate spiked. Eagle 1, copy dual-engine failure. Nearest suitable airfield is Peterson, bearing 185, 15 miles. Can you make it? Negative, tower. I'm at 15,000 feet now, losing altitude at 1,100 feet per minute. I'll be short. Attempting restart. Engine restart procedures failed. Tower, Eagle 1, no restart on either engine. I'm at 12,000 feet, heading 270, preparing to eject. Protocol was clear, eject at 10,000 feet, let the aircraft crash in the designated emergency crash zone, miles of empty federal land set aside specifically for this purpose. But then someone in the tower noticed Eagle's trajectory and checked the map. Eagle 1, be advised, your current heading has you tracking toward Riverside Elementary School. 340 students currently in session, 0.3 miles from your projected crash zone. Recommend immediate vector north to avoid populated area. There was a long pause on the radio. Everyone in the tower held their breath. Then Eagle's voice came back, still calm, but with a different quality now. Resolved. Determined. Final. Tower, Eagle 1. I see the school. I can see the playground. I can see the kids outside for recess. Eagle, vector north and eject. You don't have the altitude to. Negative, tower. If I eject now, this aircraft impacts that school in 45 seconds. I'm staying with it. I'll take it to the empty field north of Highway 94. Eagle, you don't have the altitude. The math doesn't work. Eject now. Tower, I've got this. Tell my family I love them. Eagle 1 out. He cut the radio. For the next 90 seconds, Colonel James Eagle Morrison wrestled a dead 18-ton fighter jet away from an elementary school, fighting against physics and gravity and aerodynamics and fate itself. He used every technique he'd ever learned, every bit of knowledge from 4,200 flight hours, every emergency procedure he'd practiced. He caught a thermal column that gave him 300 extra feet of altitude. He used mountain wave lift off a nearby ridge to extend his glide another quarter mile. He dumped fuel to reduce weight. He configured the aircraft for maximum glide ratio. And he flew that dead fighter jet away from Riverside Elementary School, past the school fence, past the parking lot, past the playground where 340 children were running and laughing and completely unaware that a 38,000-pound aircraft was falling toward them. He cleared the school by 200 yards. He guided the F-15 toward an empty field, just bare dirt and scrub brush, nobody within half a mile. At 300 feet, he could have ejected and probably survived. At 200 feet, he definitely could have ejected. The ejection seat was designed to work down to zero altitude at certain speeds. At 100 feet, he still had a chance. He never ejected. He stayed in that cockpit and flew the aircraft all the way to the ground, making micro-adjustments right up until the final second, ensuring the impact happened in the empty field and nowhere else. The F-15 hit the ground at 180 miles per hour. Colonel James Eagle Morrison was killed instantly on impact. But 340 children at Riverside Elementary School went home safely to their families that afternoon, completely unaware that a hero had died to save them. The Air Force gave Eagle a posthumous medal. A military funeral with full honors, flag-draped coffin, 21-gun salute, fighter jet flyover with one plane peeling away in the missing man formation. A memorial plaque at the Air Force Academy Chapel with his name, rank, and the date of his death. But none of that brought him back. Alex was 13 years old when their father died. The last conversation they'd had was the night before, when Eagle had taught Alex a new advanced gliding technique using thermal columns and mountain wave lift simultaneously. "Dad, what if I mess up? What if I can't do it?" Alex had signed, anxiety making even sign language feel shaky and uncertain. Eagle had signed back with absolute confidence, "You won't mess up, kiddo. Because I taught you. And when you fly, I'm with you. Always. Every flight you take, every landing you make, I'm right there with you. Remember that." The next day, Eagle was gone. And Alex stopped talking. Completely. Totally. Not a single word out loud for 3 years. The therapists called it selective mutism triggered by traumatic grief, compounded by pre-existing severe social anxiety disorder. Alex's mother, a middle school teacher named Jennifer Morrison who was trying desperately to hold her own shattered life together while caring for a grieving, silent child, called it heartbreak. "My baby's heart is broken," she told the therapists, crying. Alex adored their father. He was everything to them. And now he's gone, and Alex has just shut down. For 3 years, Alex didn't speak a single word out loud to anyone. Communicated only through writing, endless notebooks filled with thoughts and feelings and observations. Sign language with the few people who'd learned it to communicate with Alex. Gestures, nods, head shakes. But never speech. Alex withdrew from public school, the social pressure was too intense, the expectations too overwhelming. Got homeschooled by Jennifer and a team of tutors who understood selective mutism. Had no friends. No social life. No connection to the outside world except through mom and grandma. The only thing that kept Alex going, the only thing that made life feel worth living, was flying. 3 years ago, age 14, the secret flying. Using the death benefits from Eagle's military service, a substantial life insurance policy that had been set up specifically for Alex's education, Alex started renting simulator time at a private flight school 40 miles from home. But there was a problem: you had to be 16 to rent simulator time without parental supervision. So Alex created a fake identity. Jordan Matthews, age 28, commercial pilot building hours. Alex found an online service that created fake IDs, technically illegal, but Alex was desperate. Created an email account, a fake LinkedIn profile with a stock photo of a random person in a pilot uniform, fake employment history. Paid for simulator time with a prepaid credit card loaded from the death benefit account. The simulator instructors never questioned it. They just saw the credit card payments clear every week and assumed Jordan Matthews was just another pilot building hours, which was completely normal. Alex showed up every Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and flew. And flew. And flew. Boeing 757 simulators. Boeing 737 simulators. Emergency scenarios. Single-engine failures, dual-engine failures, hydraulic malfunctions, electrical system failures, flight control malfunctions, navigation system failures, complete avionics blackouts, cabin decompression, engine fires, landing gear malfunctions. Every scenario Eagle had taught. Every procedure Eagle had drilled. Over and over and over. 1,300 hours became 1,400. 1,500 became 1,600. 1,700 became 1,847. And Alex kept practicing the one scenario Eagle had made them do 394 times. Dual engine failure at cruise altitude. Emergency glide to landing. Because Eagle had said, "Someday, you might be that person." Alex practiced it 50 more times after Eagle died, bringing the total to 444 practice runs. Every single one successful. Every single one landing safely. Alex's simulator instructor, a retired commercial pilot named Frank who thought he was teaching, Jordan Matthews, once commented, "Jordan, I've been teaching simulator for 20 years, and I've never seen anyone practice engine out gliding this much. You're obsessed with it." Why? Alex had written on a notepad, "My father died in an aircraft accident because his engines failed. I never want to die the same way. I want to be ready for anything." Frank had nodded sympathetically. That's smart thinking. Engine failures are rare, but when they happen, they're deadly if you're not prepared. Your father would be proud of you for being this thorough. You have no idea, Alex had thought. You have absolutely no idea. Yesterday, Tuesday, the flight booking. Alex was flying to Boston to visit Grandma Morrison, Eagle's mother, a tough-as-nails 74-year-old retired nurse who'd been devastated by her son's death but who loved Alex fiercely. Jennifer had encouraged the trip. "Alex, honey, Grandma really wants to see you. She says you can stay for spring break, maybe 2 weeks. I think it would be good for you to get out of Colorado for a while. New scenery might help." Alex had nodded and booked the flight online. And when Alex saw the flight number, United Flight 1847, departing Denver at 7:23 a.m., Alex's heart had stopped. The exact number of flight hours Alex had logged. Down to the single hour. It felt like a sign. Like Eagle was sending a message, "This flight is important, kiddo. Pay attention." Alex had stared at the booking confirmation for 10 minutes, feeling goosebumps rise on their arms. Coincidence, Alex told themselves. Just a weird coincidence. But Eagle had always said, there's no such thing as coincidence in aviation. Everything means something. Pay attention to the signs. So Alex had packed the backpack carefully. The 3 flight simulator manuals, the logbook with 1,847 hours, the photograph of Eagle, a change of clothes, headphones, notebooks for communication. And this morning, Alex had boarded United Flight 1847. Flight number matching total hours. Seat 14A, Alex's age. "Dad, if you're trying to tell me something, I'm listening," Alex thought as the aircraft pushed back from the gate. United Flight 1847 pushed back from Gate B34 at exactly 7:18 a.m., right on schedule. Captain Hammond's voice came over the intercom, warm and professional and reassuring. "Good morning, folks, and welcome aboard United Flight 1847 with service to Boston Logan International Airport. This is Captain Lisa Hammond up front along with First Officer Marcus Webb. We're looking at a beautiful flight today, approximately 3.5 hours of flight time. Weather is absolutely perfect all the way, clear skies, light headwinds, smooth air. We'll be cruising at 37,000 feet. Sit back, relax, enjoy the flight, and we'll have you in Boston right on time. Flight attendants, prepare for departure." The 757 taxied slowly toward runway 34R, following the yellow taxiway lines, passing other aircraft waiting for their turn. In seat 14A, Alex watched everything with the trained eye of someone who'd logged nearly 2,000 simulator hours. The way Hammond controlled the nose-wheel steering, smooth, professional, no jerky movements. The way she positioned the aircraft perfectly on the taxiway centerline. The way she handled the radio calls with air traffic control, crisp, clear, professional. She's good, Alex thought. Experienced. Confident. This is going to be a perfect flight. At 7:23 a.m., the tower cleared them for takeoff. United 1847, winds 340 at 8, runway 34 right, cleared for takeoff. United 1847, cleared for takeoff, runway 34 right, Hammond acknowledged. She taxied onto the runway, lined up perfectly with the centerline, and smoothly advanced both throttles to takeoff power. The Pratt & Whitney engine spooled up with a building roar. The aircraft surged forward, accelerating rapidly down the 12,000-foot runway. 80 knots, Webb called out. Check, Hammond responded. V1. V1. Rotate. Hammond pulled back smoothly on the yoke and the 757 lifted gracefully into the perfect Colorado morning sky, climbing away from Denver at exactly 7:23 and 47 seconds a.m. In seat 14A, Alex felt the familiar sensation of liftoff, that moment when the wheels leave the ground and suddenly you're flying, defying gravity, soaring. It never got old. Alex closed their eyes and imagined Eagle sitting in the empty middle seat beside them. Perfect rotation, kiddo, Eagle's voice said in Alex's mind. Smooth as silk. Textbook takeoff. Alex smiled slightly. Miss you, Dad. Wish you were really here. The climb continued without incident, smooth and routine. 10,000 feet, the aircraft passed through a thin layer of wispy clouds. 15,000 feet, Denver falling away below, the Rocky Mountains spreading out like a massive wrinkled carpet. 20,000 feet, leaving Colorado airspace, heading east over the plains. 25,000 feet, cruise climb continuing. 30,000 feet, the sky turning darker blue as they climbed higher. 35,000 feet, almost at cruise altitude. At 37,000 feet, First Officer Webb leveled off and reduced power to cruise thrust settings. The engine settled into a steady, comfortable hum. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Passengers unbuckled, stood up to stretch, opened overhead bins to grab books and laptops. Flight attendants began beverage service, rolling carts down the aisle. Coffee, tea, water, juice. Sarah Chen asked cheerfully as she worked her way down the aisle. The businessman in 14B ordered coffee, black. The woman in 14C asked for tea. Sarah smiled at Alex. How about you, sweetheart? Want anything to drink? Alex held up a pre-written note, apple juice, please. Thank you. Sarah poured a cup of apple juice and handed it over with a warm smile. There you go, honey. You just let me know if you need anything else. Everything was routine. Boring. Perfect. Exactly the kind of flight Captain Hammond loved. 8:07 a.m., 44 minutes into the flight, 37,000 feet over Nebraska, 380 miles from any major airport. First Officer Marcus Webb was reviewing the arrival procedures for Boston when he noticed something wrong on his engine display. Engine 1, the left engine, temperature gauge climbing. Slowly at first. Then faster. Green zone, yellow zone, climbing toward red. Captain, he said, voice calm but concerned. Engine 1 temperature is spiking. Moving into yellow. Hammond glanced at her primary flight display, saw the same indication. Her training kicked in immediately, 32 years of experience, 18,500 hours, thousands of hours of simulator training for emergencies. Run the engine overheat checklist, she ordered. Webb reached for the quick reference handbook, flipping to the emergency procedures section. Before he could find the right page, the left engine coughed. A violent shudder ran through the aircraft. Then the engine sputtered, a sound like a car engine running out of gas, rough and irregular. And then it died. Just stopped. Complete silence from the left side of the aircraft. The sound was terrifying, that sudden absence of the familiar engine roar, replaced by nothing but rushing wind. Several passengers noticed immediately. What was that? Did the engine just stop? Oh my God! Engine 1 flame out. Webb shouted. Hammond's hands moved automatically through the procedure she'd practiced hundreds of times. Secure engine 1. Fuel cut off, engine 1. She moved the fuel control lever. We're fine. We can fly on one engine. Turn toward Denver, get us back. Then the right engine began the same terrifying sequence. Temperature spiking, green to yellow to red in seconds. Vibration increasing, the entire aircraft shaking. Power dropping, thrust falling off rapidly. Engine 2 is failing. It died. Both engines. Both Pratt & Whitney turbofans, each capable of producing 40,000 pounds of thrust. Dead. Silent. The only sounds now, rushing wind outside the fuselage, the slight whistle of air over the wings, and the sudden, piercing screams of 214 passengers who realized something was catastrophically wrong. In the cockpit, Captain Lisa Hammond felt ice-cold adrenaline flood her system. She'd trained for single-engine failures thousands of times. But dual-engine failure? At 37,000 feet? Over the Nebraska plains, hundreds of miles from any airport? This was the nightmare scenario every pilot fears and prays never happens. Her mind raced through the calculations with mathematical precision born from decades of experience. A Boeing 757-200 at maximum takeoff weight glides at approximately a 15-to-1 ratio, 15 nautical miles forward for every nautical mile of altitude lost. They were at 37,000 feet, which equals roughly 7 nautical miles of altitude. Maximum theoretical glide range in perfect conditions, 105 nautical miles. She pulled up the navigation display with shaking hands and looked at the nearest airports. Denver International, 210 nautical miles west-northwest. Kansas City International, 180 nautical miles south. Grand Island Regional, 67 nautical miles ahead, bearing 095. She did the math in her head and felt her stomach drop into a bottomless pit of terror. We can't reach Denver. We're 105 miles short. We can't reach Kansas City. We're 75 miles short. Grand Island is 67 miles ahead, but that's a tiny regional airport. Can a 757 even land there? But it's our only shot. If we can make it. If. First Officer Webb was already on the radio, voice tight with barely controlled panic. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Denver Center, United 1847, we have dual engine failure. Both engines flamed out. Flight level 370. 214 souls on board. We are gliding. We need immediate. Then a voice cut through the chaos. Not from the radio. From the cabin intercom. A voice Hammond had never heard before. A child's voice. Young. Small. But impossibly, eerily calm. Captain Hammond, this is passenger seat 14A. Hammond grabbed the intercom panel and stared at it like it had just spoken a foreign language. What? Who is this? How are you on this frequency? The voice continued, and now Hammond could hear that it was shaking slightly, nervous, scared, but still maintaining incredible composure. My name is Alex Morrison. I'm 14 years old. I'm sitting in seat 14A. I haven't spoken out loud to anyone in 3 years because I have severe social anxiety and selective mutism. But I need to talk right now because 214 people are about to die and I'm the only person on this aircraft who can help you land it safely. In the cabin, complete chaos. Passengers screaming, crying, praying, hyperventilating. Oxygen masks had dropped from the ceiling, standard procedure when the aircraft lost pressurization from the sudden engine failures. Parents clutching their children, crying. Strangers holding hands. The businessman in 14B sobbing into his cell phone, trying desperately to call his wife even though there was no signal at 37,000 feet, I love you, please tell the kids I love them. The woman in 14C hyperventilating into a paper bag, eyes wide with terror. Flight attendants shouting instructions that nobody was listening to, put on your oxygen masks. Secure your seatbelts. Brace positions. And in the middle of this absolute pandemonium, in seat 14A, Alex Morrison sat with supernatural calmness, holding the cabin crew intercom phone with both hands to keep them from shaking. For 3 years, Alex hadn't spoken a single word out loud. Not to mom. Not to grandma. Not to therapists or teachers or anyone. Words had felt impossible. Like pushing through concrete. Like standing naked in front of a hostile crowd. But now, with 214 lives hanging in the balance and both engines dead and the aircraft gliding silently towards certain death, Eagle's voice was suddenly crystal clear in Alex's mind. Not imagination. Not memory. Real. Present. Strong. Alex, when everyone else panics, you're the one who stays calm. That's why I trained you. For moments exactly like this. When you're the only one who can save them. Now talk. Help them. Be the eagle I taught you to be. Use your voice. Save them. Alex's hands stopped shaking. The fear didn't disappear, it was still there, massive and overwhelming, but Eagle's training was stronger. 394 practice runs. 1,847 hours logged. 4 years of preparation. For this exact moment. Alex pressed the intercom button again and spoke, out loud, for the first time in 3 years. Captain Hammond, are you listening to me? In the cockpit, Hammond grabbed the intercom with white-knuckled hands. Yes. I'm listening. Who are you? How do you know my name? The young voice came back, words coming faster now, more confident. I heard you announce it during boarding. I'm in seat 14A, window seat, economy class. My name is Alex Morrison. My father was Colonel James Morrison, United States Air Force, F-15 Eagle fighter pilot, call sign Eagle. He died 4 years ago in a training accident when both his engines failed and he crashed deliberately to avoid hitting an elementary school and killing 340 children. Webb's head snapped up from the emergency checklist. Eagle Morrison. I know that name. He was a legend in the Air Force. They still teach his techniques at. Alex continued, voice gaining strength. Before my father died, he taught me to fly. He started teaching me when I was 7 years old. For 6 years, he taught me everything he knew. I have 1,847 hours of logged flight time, most of it in simulators, but some in real aircraft. I've practiced dual-engine failure glider landings 394 times in Boeing 757 simulators. I know the exact procedures for landing this specific aircraft with no engine power. I know how to calculate glide ratios, how to find thermal lift, how to use mountain wave lift, how to maximize every single foot of altitude we have. My father made me practice this exact scenario so many times that I can do it with my eyes closed. Hammond's mind was reeling, trying to process what she was hearing. A 14-year-old passenger. Claiming nearly 2,000 flight hours. Claiming to be the child of a legendary Air Force pilot. Claiming they could land this aircraft. It was insane. Impossible. But they were gliding towards certain death with no other options. Hammond made a split-second decision. Marcus, get Peterson Space Force Base on the emergency frequency right now. Ask them about Colonel James Morrison, call sign Eagle. I need confirmation before I start taking advice from a 14-year-old kid. Webb was already transmitting. Peterson Space Force Base, Peterson, United 1847, emergency traffic, priority, we have a passenger on board claiming to be the child of Colonel James Morrison, call sign Eagle, can anyone there confirm this person's identity and credentials? There was a pause that felt like it lasted forever. Then a voice came back over the radio, older, rough, choked with sudden emotion. United 1847, this is Chief Master Sergeant Robert Hayes, Peterson Space Force Base, Maintenance Operations. Did you just say Eagle's child? Colonel James Morrison's child? Is that Alex Morrison? Peterson Space Force Base, Colorado Springs, 200 miles south, 8:08 a.m. Chief Master Sergeant Robert Hammer Hayes had been drinking his morning coffee in the Maintenance Operations Office, reviewing repair schedules for the F-16 squadron, when Webb's emergency transmission crackled through the radio speakers mounted on the wall. Passenger claiming to be the child of Colonel James Morrison, call sign Eagle. The coffee cup slipped from Hammer's hand and shattered on the concrete floor, hot liquid splashing everywhere. For a moment, he couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Colonel James Eagle Morrison. His best friend for 12 years. The best pilot he'd ever known. Dead 4 years. And now Eagle's child was on a dying airliner. Hammer lunged for the radio with shaking hands, nearly knocking over his chair. United 1847, this is Chief Master Sergeant Robert Hayes, Peterson Space Force Base. Did you say Alex Morrison? Eagle's kid? Is Alex on that aircraft? The small voice came back through the intercom, transmitted through the aircraft's radio system, and Hammer felt tears instantly flood his eyes because he recognized something in that voice. The same calm determination Eagle had always carried. The same steadiness under pressure. Yes, Chief Hayes. It's me. Alex Morrison. You met me 4 times when I was little. At Dad's squadron picnics at the base. I was 8, 9, 10, and 11. I didn't talk to you because I was too anxious to speak to people I didn't know well. But I remember you. You gave me a Model F-15 for my 9th birthday. I still have it. Hammer was openly crying now, tears streaming down his weathered face. Alex, oh my God, Alex. Your father was the best pilot I ever knew in 28 years of Air Force service. He taught half the fighter pilots in this command how to land aircraft with dead engines. If he taught you. Alex's voice was steady, controlled. He taught me everything, Chief Hayes. Everything he knew. And right now, I need you to tell Captain Hammond to trust me. Because I'm about to guide 214 people to a safe landing using techniques my dad made me practice 394 times. The techniques he used to save that elementary school. The techniques that kept him alive for an extra 90 seconds so he could crash in an empty field instead of into 340 children. Hammer grabbed the radio microphone with both hands and transmitted with absolute conviction. Captain Hammond, this is Chief Master Sergeant Hayes. I knew Eagle Morrison personally. I flew with him for 12 years. I watched him train dozens of pilots. That man could land anything with no engines. He was a goddamn artist at emergency gliding. He held the Air Force record for most consecutive dead stick landings without incident, 17 in a row during qualification testing. If he trained his kid, if he passed that knowledge down, then Alex knows more about engine-out flying than 90% of commercial pilots will learn in their entire careers. You listen to that kid. You listen and you do exactly what Alex says. Within 90 seconds of that transmission, 2 critical things happened simultaneously. At Buckley Space Force Base, 60 miles north of Peterson, 2 F-16 Fighting Falcons were already on alert status, pilots sitting in the ready room in full flight gear. The scramble order came through. Viper flight, scramble immediately. Civilian airliner emergency, dual engine failure, United 1847, Boeing 757, currently at flight level 350 and descending, 210 souls on board, attempting emergency glide to Grand Island Regional. Your mission, visual contact, escort, provide real-time observation and support. This is Eagle's kid up there. Colonel Morrison's child. Move now. The 2 pilots, Major Sarah Viper Chen and Captain Mike Torch Rodriguez, were running toward their aircraft before the announcement finished. They knew Eagle's name. Every fighter pilot in the Air Force knew Eagle's name. And now Eagle's kid was trying to save an airliner using Eagle's techniques. They'd follow that aircraft to hell and back. Both F-16s were airborne in 4 minutes flat, afterburners screaming as they climbed vertically toward the emergency. Second, every Air Force base started listening. Word spread through military aviation channels with the speed of lightning. Every Air Force base within 500 miles tuned their radios to the emergency frequency. Pilots who'd trained under Eagle. Maintenance crews who'd worked on Eagle's F-15. Commanders who'd served with Eagle. Air traffic controllers who'd guided Eagle through emergencies. All of them listening. All of them praying. Because Eagle Morrison had been a legend, and now his child, the quiet kid nobody had seen or heard from in 4 years, was talking for the first time in 3 years to save 214 lives. 8:10 a.m., 35,000 feet, descending at 1,200 feet per minute. Major Sarah Viper Chen pushed her F-16 to maximum military power, full throttle without afterburner, racing toward the stricken United Airlines 757. She'd been one of Eagle's students 6 years ago when she was a young lieutenant fresh out of flight school. Eagle had taught her advanced fighter tactics and emergency procedures. He'd saved her career once when she'd made a critical mistake during training and he'd talked her through the recovery instead of washing her out of the program. She owed Eagle everything. And now she had a chance to help his child. United 1847, this is Viper lead, we are inbound to your position, ETA 4 minutes. We'll establish visual contact and provide escort. And Alex, if you're listening, your father trained my entire squadron 6 years ago. He was the best instructor I ever had. Every technique I know about engine-out flying came from him. If you learn from Eagle, we trust you completely. You guide them in, and we'll support you any way we can. Alex's voice came back, and Viper could hear the emotion breaking through the calm now. Thank you, Viper. Dad talked about you. He said you were one of his best students. He said you had natural talent for emergency procedures. Let's show everyone what Eagle taught us. Viper felt tears in her eyes behind her helmet visor. Roger that, Alex. Let's bring them home. Eagle's watching over all of us today. For the next 36 minutes, Alex Morrison, 14 years old, hadn't spoken out loud to anyone in 3 years. Severe social anxiety that made normal conversation feel like torture, became the calm, clear voice that coordinated a miracle. 8:09 a.m., 36,000 feet, descending. Alex pressed the intercom button, hands steady now, Eagle's training taking over completely. Captain Hammond, I need you to tell me your current glide ratio and descent rate. Hammond checked her instruments, still half in shock that she was taking instructions from a teenager but with no other options, were showing approximately 15-to-1 glide ratio. Descent rate is 1,200 feet per minute. Airspeed 230 knots. Alex's response was immediate, that's too fast. You're bleeding energy unnecessarily. Your optimal glide speed for a 757 at your current weight is 210 knots, that's the speed that gives you maximum range. Reduce speed to 210 knots right now. Your descent rate will drop to approximately 800 feet per minute and your total glide range will extend by roughly 18 nautical miles. Webb looked at Hammond with wide eyes. Should we trust this? Hammond thought for exactly 1 second. They had no other options and the kid clearly knew technical details most people wouldn't know, then adjusted the airspeed. She pulled back slightly on the yoke, trading some airspeed for reduced descent rate. The airspeed indicator wound down, 230 knots. 225, 220. 215, 210. The vertical speed indicator changed, minus 1,200 feet per minute, minus 1,100. Minus 1,000. Minus 900. Minus 800. Webb stared at the instruments in amazement. It worked. The kid was exactly right. We just gained 18 miles of range. Alex continued, voice calm and methodical, now I need you to turn to heading 245 degrees. There's a ridge line approximately 40 miles southwest of your current position, part of the Smoky Hills region. If you fly parallel to that ridge at the correct distance, you'll catch mountain wave lift. That's rising air created when wind hits the ridge and deflects upward. It'll slow your descent even more, maybe down to 400 feet per minute. You'll gain another 10 to 12 miles of range. Hammond looked at Webb. Do we have topographical data showing ridges in that area? Webb pulled up the terrain display. Yes, there's a ridge line at bearing 238 degrees, distance 42 miles. Runs north-south for about 60 miles. Elevation approximately 2,800 feet. Alex is right, Hammond said quietly. She banked the aircraft to heading 245. Viper's voice crackled over the radio, United 1847, Viper lead, we have visual contact on you. We're at your 7 o'clock, 2 miles, slightly high. We can see you're turning toward a ridgeline. Is that the kid's idea? Hammond, affirmative, Viper. Alex says there's mountain wave lift there. Viper, Eagle used to teach that technique. He called it reading the invisible sky. He said most pilots forget that air is a fluid just like water, it flows, it has currents, it has updrafts and downdrafts. If there's lift at that ridge, Eagle would have found it. Follow Alex's instructions. Hammond flew the heading Alex had specified. 3 minutes later, as they approached the ridge, the descent rate began to change. Minus 800 feet per minute, minus 700. Minus 600. Minus 500. Minus 400. They'd found the mountain wave. Oh my God, Webb whispered. We're riding an updraft. The descent rate just cut in half. Hammond keyed the intercom, Alex, it worked. We're at 400 feet per minute descent. How did you know that would be there? Alex's voice carried a hint of emotion now. My dad made me study meteorology and aerodynamics for 6 years. He said you can't fly well if you don't understand air. He taught me how to read terrain and predict where lift would form. He used these same techniques to extend his glide when his F-15 lost both engines. It kept him airborne an extra 90 seconds. Long enough to clear the school. Hammond felt a lump in her throat. Your father was a hero, Alex. I know, Alex said softly. And today I'm going to honor him by making sure all 214 of us land safely. Now listen carefully, Captain. I need to give you the next set of instructions. 8:17 a.m., 28,000 feet. Alex, Captain, pull up your navigation display and find Grand Island Regional Airport. That's our target. It's a small regional field, but it has one runway that's 7,200 feet long, runway 1836, oriented north-south. That's just barely long enough for a 757 if we execute the landing perfectly. Hammond already had Grand Island on her display. I see it. Bearing 095, distance 67 nautical miles. Alex, your current glide calculator is probably showing you'll be about 4 miles short, correct? Hammond checked, yes. We're showing we'll reach approximately 4 miles short of the field. Alex, we're going to fix that with one more technique. When you're 15 miles from the airport, I'll tell you exactly when. I need you to deploy your speed brakes for exactly 5 seconds, then retract them immediately. Webb frowned. Speed brakes? That'll kill our airspeed and reduce our range. Why would we? Alex interrupted, voice patient but firm, it creates a momentary disturbance in the airflow around the aircraft. If there's a thermal column nearby, a column of rising warm air, the disturbance will push you sideways into it. My dad called it fishing for thermals. It's like jigging a fishing line to attract a fish. You create a small disturbance and if there's a thermal close by, the vortex pulls you into it. My dad used this exact technique to land his F-15 when both engines quit during a training mission 3 months before he died. It gave him an extra 800 feet of altitude. Viper's voice came over the radio, filled with emotion, United 1847, Viper here. Eagle taught us that technique in advanced training. We all thought he'd invented it. He said he learned it from studying eagles, the actual birds. They do a single wing flap sometimes when they're soaring, just to disturb the air and find thermals. We practiced it 20 times in simulators but I've never used it in real flight. It works in theory but it's incredibly risky because if there's no thermal nearby, you just waste energy for nothing. Alex, I know. But I've studied the meteorological conditions over Nebraska today. There's strong solar heating of the ground creating thermal columns every 3 to 5 miles. The probability of a thermal being within range when we try this is approximately 85%. And we need that extra altitude or we won't make the runway. Hammond looked at Webb. Webb shrugged helplessly. We're out of conventional options anyway. Hammond keyed the intercom. Okay, Alex. We'll trust you. Tell us exactly when to deploy speed brakes. 8:25 a.m., 15 miles from Grand Island Regional Airport, 12,000 feet. The airport was visible now through the windscreen, a small regional field in the middle of flat Nebraska farmland, one runway, a few small buildings. Their only hope. Alex's voice came through, calm and clear. Captain, in 30 seconds I'm going to count down from 5. When I say, deploy, push the speed brake lever to full deployment. Hold it for exactly 5 seconds while I count. When I say, retract, pull it back immediately. Understood? Hammond's hand moved to the speed brake lever. Understood. Okay. Starting countdown in 10 seconds. 9. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Deploy speed brakes now. Hammond pushed the lever forward. The speed brakes, panels on the wings that pop up to create drag, deployed with a mechanical thunk. The aircraft shuddered as drag increased suddenly and violently. Airspeed dropped rapidly, 210 knots. 205, 200. 195. Alex counted, 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Retract now. Hammond pulled the lever back. The speed brakes retracted. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Webb was watching the instruments. We just lost 15 knots of airspeed for nothing. We're in worse shape than before. Then the variometer, the instrument showing vertical speed, twitched. Descent rate, minus 400 feet per minute, minus 300. Minus 200. Minus 100. Minus 50. 0. Then it went positive. Plus 50 feet per minute. They were climbing. We're in a thermal. Webb shouted. We're actually climbing. Viper, circling overhead in her F-16, watching through her targeting pod's infrared camera, United 1847, I have you visual and on infrared. I can see the thermal column you just entered, it shows up as a bright column on infrared because the air is warmer. That's incredible. The kid just threaded a needle from inside a passenger cabin with no instruments to detect thermals. That's pure knowledge and calculation. The aircraft rode the thermal for 90 seconds, gaining 600 feet of altitude. When they exited the thermal, their glide calculator updated. Grand Island Regional Airport, 8 miles ahead. Altitude, 8,600 feet. Glide range, 8.7 miles. They could make it. Barely. Webb stared at the numbers, then turned to Hammond with tears in his eyes. That kid just saved our lives. 8:31 a.m., 8 miles from Grand Island Regional Airport, 8,000 feet. The airport was clearly visible now, one runway cutting through flat farmland, a small terminal building, emergency vehicles already rolling toward the runway with lights flashing. Every fire truck in 3 counties was converging on Grand Island Regional. Ambulances lined up. News helicopters circling at a safe distance, broadcasting live. The entire town of Grand Island, population 50,000, was watching. The entire Air Force was listening. The entire world was about to witness either a miracle or a tragedy. Inside the 757's cabin, passengers had stopped screaming. Some were praying quietly. Some were crying. Some were holding hands with strangers. Some were writing final messages on their phones to loved ones, hoping the messages would somehow be found after the crash. In seat 14A, Alex Morrison gripped the intercom phone with both hands and closed their eyes for just a moment. "Dad, if you're watching, if you're really there, help me do this. Guide my words. Guide Captain Hammond's hands. Let your training save all these people. Please." Then Alex opened their eyes and pressed the intercom button. "Captain Hammond, we're going to land this aircraft now. I need you to listen very carefully to every instruction I give you. We only get one shot at this. There's no go-around option, no second approach. We land on the first try or we crash. Understood?" Hammond's voice was steady. "Understood, Alex. I'm ready. Tell me what to do." Alex took a deep breath, the first truly deep breath in 3 years of not speaking, and began. "You're going to land in a full flaps configuration with zero engine thrust. Approach speed will be 140 knots, that's 20 knots above normal stall speed for this configuration, which gives you a safety margin. Your aiming point is the first 1,000 feet of runway. The runway is 7,200 feet long total. You'll need almost every inch of it because you'll have no reverse thrust from the engines, only aerodynamic braking from the spoilers and mechanical braking from the wheels." Hammond, copy. "Full flaps, 140 knots, aim for first 1,000 feet. Alex, the approach is going to feel wrong. You're going to feel like you're too high, like you should descend faster. Don't. Trust your instruments and trust me. The glide path will be steeper than normal, but it's correct for a no-power landing. 8:34 a.m., 5 miles out, 3,000 feet. Grand Island Tower, United 1847, you are cleared to land runway 18, wind 180 at 12 knots. All emergency equipment is standing by. Good luck." Hammond, United 1847, cleared to land runway 18. She looked at Webb. Landing checklist. Webb ran through the items, voice shaking. Landing gear. Hammond reached for the gear lever. Gear down. The landing gear extended with a mechanical whine and a solid thunk as 3 green lights illuminated. Gear down, 3 green lights, Webb confirmed. Flaps. Hammond moved the flap lever. Flaps 30. The flaps extended with a hydraulic whir, increasing both lift and drag. Flaps 30, green light. Airspeed, 160 knots, decreasing. Descent rate, 700 feet per minute. They were perfectly lined up with runway 18. Alex's voice, "Captain, everything looks good from back here. I'm watching through the window. Your approach angle is perfect. When you get to 50 feet above the runway, I need you to flare, pull back gently on the yoke to raise the nose. The main landing gear will touch first. Let them touch gently, like you're setting down an egg. Then immediately deploy full spoilers to kill any remaining lift and apply maximum wheel braking. You'll use every foot of that runway. 8:36 a.m., 2 miles out, 1,000 feet. Viper, flying formation beside the 757 in her F-16, United 1847, you're lined up perfectly. Looking good. Steady as she goes. Eagle would be so damn proud, Alex." Alex's voice, barely a whisper now, thick with emotion, "I hope so. I really hope so." Inside the cabin, passengers were silent now. Some had their eyes closed, unable to watch. Others stared out the windows, watching the ground rushing up. The businessman in 14B reached over and grabbed Alex's free hand, the one not holding the intercom phone, and squeezed it. Alex squeezed back. The woman in 14C whispered, "Thank you. Whatever happens, thank you for trying." 8:36 a.m., 1 mile out, 500 feet. The runway was filling their entire windscreen now. Hammond's hands were steady on the yoke, years of training and muscle memory guiding her movements. Airspeed, 145 knots, still slightly fast. Descent rate, 600 feet per minute. Altitude, 400 feet. 300 feet. 200 feet. Alex's voice came through one final time. Captain, my dad used to say, when you land with no engines, you only get one shot, so make it count. Flare at 50 feet. Hold the nose up. Let the main wheels kiss the runway gently like you're afraid to wake a sleeping baby. Then brake like 214 lives depend on it. Because they do. 8:36 a.m., 100 feet. The runway numbers, 18, painted in huge white letters, were directly below them. Altitude, 80 feet. 70 feet. 60 feet. 8:36 a.m., 50 feet. Flaring, Hammond said calmly. She pulled back gently on the yoke. The nose came up. The main landing gear descended toward the concrete. Time seemed to slow down. In seat 14A, Alex was crying silently, still holding the intercom phone. Dad, I did everything you taught me. Please let this work. Please. 8:36 and 14 seconds a.m., touchdown. The main wheels touched the runway with a firm but controlled impact, a solid thump that rattled through the entire aircraft. Exactly 800 feet past the threshold. Perfect touchdown point. Hammond's hands moved instantly, automatically. Spoilers, deployed. The spoilers popped up on the wings, killing lift, forcing the aircraft down onto the runway. Maximum braking. She pressed the brake pedals to their maximum deflection. The 757 began to slow. But it was still moving dangerously fast. And the runway was running out. Runway remaining, 6,400 feet. Airspeed, 120 knots. 110, 100. Runway remaining, 5,000 feet. Webb was calling out speeds, 90 knots. 80, 70. Runway remaining, 3,200 feet. Come on, slow down. Hammond whispered. Runway remaining, 1,200 feet. 60 knots. 50, 40. Runway remaining, 400 feet. 30 knots. 20. The end of the runway was rushing toward them, orange threshold lights marking where concrete turned to grass and dirt. Runway remaining, 200 feet. 15 knots. 10. Runway remaining, 180 feet. The aircraft rolled to a complete stop. Complete silence for one heartbeat. 2 heartbeats. Then the cabin absolutely erupted. Screaming, but now with joy, not terror. Crying, but now with relief, not fear. Cheering, praying, laughing, sobbing. Passengers hugging strangers, kissing the seats in front of them, calling out thank yous to God and fate and the pilots. The businessman in 14B turned and threw his arms around Alex, sobbing, "You saved us. You saved us, kid. You saved my life." The woman in 14C was crying so hard she couldn't speak, just grabbed Alex's hand and held it, shaking. Up in the cockpit, Captain Hammond sat back in her seat, hands shaking violently now that the adrenaline was wearing off. Webb was crying openly. Hammond keyed the public address system, her voice breaking. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the ground. We are safe. We are alive. Thanks to our passenger in seat 14A, a 14-year-old kid named Alex Morrison, who just saved all of our lives." The cabin erupted again. Then Hammond switched to the cabin intercom frequency. "Alex, you did it. You saved 214 people. Your father would be so incredibly proud of you." There was a long silence. Then Alex's voice came back, small, shaking, crying, but filled with something that hadn't been there for 3 years. Pride. "I did it for him. I did it because he taught me. He prepared me. He knew someday I might need to do this. And I did it because for the first time in 3 years, I had to talk. I had to use my voice. I had to speak up when it mattered most. And people listened. Viper's voice crackled over the radio, breaking with emotion. Eagle is smiling down from heaven right now, Alex. I guarantee it. That was the most beautiful piece of flying I've ever witnessed. You honored his legacy. You honored his sacrifice. You saved 214 lives using the techniques he taught you. He trained you for this exact moment. And you were perfect. The emergency exit doors opened and the slides deployed. 214 passengers evacuated the aircraft in under 2 minutes, nobody injured, everyone shaken but alive. Fire trucks surrounded the aircraft, foam at the ready, but there was no fire. Ambulances stood by, but there were no injuries. Just 214 people who should have died. And didn't. Because a quiet kid in seat 14A finally found their voice. When Alex stepped off the aircraft, legs shaking so badly they could barely walk, there was a crowd of people waiting. First responders. Airport personnel. Media with cameras rolling. And Chief Master Sergeant Robert "Hammer" Hayes, who'd driven 200 miles in 2 hours to be there. Hammer walked straight up to Alex and pulled them into a bear hug, crying. Eagle would be so damn proud of you, kid. So damn proud. Alex buried their face in Hammer's shoulder and cried, 3 years of grief and silence and fear pouring out all at once. I miss him, Alex whispered, speaking out loud to someone other than the pilots for the first time. I miss him so much. I know, kiddo. I know. But you honored him today. You carried his legacy. You saved all those people using what he taught you. He's watching over you. I promise. Within 24 hours, Alex Morrison was the most famous teenager in America. CNN, quiet teen who hadn't spoken in 3 years saves 214 lives. NBC, 14-year-old pilot guides commercial jet to miracle landing using dead father's techniques. Fox, Eagle's legacy, Colonel's child breaks 3 years of silence to save airliner. BBC, American teen with selective mutism becomes hero in aviation miracle. Within 48 hours, the NTSB had begun their investigation. Their preliminary findings. White heavy checkmark bird strike damage during initial climb at 12,000 feet, a flock of Canadian geese ingested by both engines, causing microscopic cracks in turbine blades. White heavy checkmark cracks missed during routine inspection due to human error and limitations of visual inspection technology. White heavy checkmark catastrophic turbine blade failure 44 minutes later when accumulated stress from normal flight operations caused the blades to disintegrate. White heavy checkmark not sabotage, not negligence, not design flaw, just an incredibly unlucky perfect storm of circumstances. But the investigation also uncovered Alex's logbook. 1,847 hours of flight time. All logged meticulously. All technically illegal for someone under 16 years old. The FAA launched an investigation into how a 14-year-old had accumulated nearly 2,000 flight hours without anyone noticing. They found the simulator company had never properly verified Jordan Matthews' identity beyond credit card payments. Multiple flight instructors had taught Jordan Matthews, without ever meeting in person or verifying age. Colonel Morrison had used his Air Force credentials to get Alex access to real aircraft for training. Technically, Alex had violated numerous federal aviation regulations. But Alex had also saved 214 lives. The FAA administrator held a press conference. While we cannot condone violation of regulations regarding minimum age for pilot certification, we also cannot ignore that Alex Morrison's extraordinary knowledge and training saved 214 lives. We are therefore creating a new program, the Morrison Exception, which will allow minors as young as 14 to log supervised simulator hours for emergency preparedness training, provided they have parental consent and qualified supervision. The Air Force held their own ceremony. General Patricia Rodriguez, Commander of Air Combat Command, presented Alex with a special commendation. Alex Morrison, on behalf of the United States Air Force and in honor of your father, Colonel James Eagle Morrison, we recognize your extraordinary courage and skill in saving 214 lives using techniques taught to you by your father. Colonel Morrison's legacy lives on through you. We are proud to award you the Eagle Morrison Award for Extraordinary Airmanship, the first recipient of this newly created honor. She pinned a medal on Alex's chest, a gold eagle with wings spread, identical to the insignia Eagle had worn. Alex cried through the entire ceremony. United Airlines CEO personally flew to Grand Island to meet Alex. Alex, on behalf of United Airlines and the 214 people you saved, I want to offer you something. When you turn 18 and are eligible for a commercial pilot's license, United Airlines will provide you with a full pilot training scholarship, every rating, every certification, completely paid for. And when you complete your training, you'll have a guaranteed job offer as a first officer with United Airlines. He also handed Alex an envelope. Inside, a lifetime pass for unlimited free flights on United Airlines. You and your family can fly anywhere we go, anytime you want, for the rest of your life. It's the least we can do. Boeing Corporation, manufacturer of the 757, added the Morrison Protocol to their pilot training curriculum worldwide. The techniques Alex had used. Optimal glide speed calculation, mountain wave lift exploitation, thermal fishing technique, energy management in engine out scenarios. All of it became standard training for Boeing pilots everywhere. Eagle's techniques, refined through Alex's experience, would now be taught to thousands of pilots around the world, saving countless future lives. 2 weeks after the landing, Air Force Academy Chapel, Colorado Springs. Alex Morrison stood alone in the quiet chapel, looking up at the memorial plaque for Colonel James Eagle Morrison. The chapel was empty, just Alex and the memories. For the first time since Eagle's death, Alex spoke out loud to their father. "Dad. I did it. I used everything you taught me. All those hours in simulators. All those practice runs. The 394 engine-out landings you made me do over and over. It all mattered. It all saved lives. I saved 214 people using your knowledge." Alex's voice broke, tears streaming down their face. "And I had to talk, Dad. I had to use my voice. For 3 years, I couldn't speak to anyone. Words felt impossible. But when those engines died and everyone was going to die, your voice was so clear in my head. You told me to talk. To help them. To be the eagle you taught me to be. And I did. I spoke. For the first time in 3 years, I found my voice because people needed me." Alex touched the cold marble plaque. "I miss you so much. Every single day. But I felt you with me up there. Guiding me. Teaching me. Showing me what to do. You saved those 214 people just as much as I did. It was your knowledge. Your training. Your legacy." A voice behind Alex, "He'd be incredibly proud of you." Alex turned. Major Sarah Viper Chen stood in the chapel doorway, still in her flight suit, holding a small wooden box. "Your father's old squadron, the pilots he trained, the people he flew with, we wanted you to have something." She walked forward and opened the box. Inside was a custom-made flight suit patch. Dark blue background. A golden eagle in flight. And one word embroidered beneath it, Eaglet. "Your eagle's legacy, Alex. The quiet kid who never spoke, until 214 people needed you to. You've earned this call sign. Eaglet. Eagle's child. The one who carries his knowledge and his courage into the future." Alex took the patch with shaking hands, staring at it through tears. Viper knelt down so she was eye level with Alex. "Can I ask you something? Do you want to fly again? For real? As a career?" Alex looked at the patch, then at Eagle's memorial, then back at Viper, and signed. "Will I ever be a real pilot? Or will people always just see me as the lucky kid who got lucky once?" Viper smiled gently and shook her head. Alex, you already are a real pilot. What you did wasn't luck. It was skill, knowledge, training, and courage. You just executed one of the most difficult maneuvers in aviation, landing a commercial airliner with no engine power using advanced gliding techniques, with better precision than most pilots could manage. That's not luck. That's being one of the greatest pilots alive. She pulled out an official letter with the Air Force Academy seal. When you turn 18, if you want it, there's a slot waiting for you at the United States Air Force Academy. Full scholarship. Pilot training track. Your father's legacy. If you want to follow in his footsteps. Alex stared at the letter, then looked back at Eagle's memorial. Signed, I want it. But first I want to help other kids like me. Kids who don't talk. Kids with anxiety. Kids who feel broken and scared and alone. I want to show them that you don't have to be loud to be a hero. You just need to know what to do when the moment comes. And you need to find your voice when it matters most. Viper's eyes filled with tears. Then that's exactly what you'll do. Eagle didn't just teach you to fly, Alex. He taught you to rise when everyone else falls. He taught you that heroes come in all forms, even quiet ones who've been silent for years. He taught you that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about speaking up when every instinct tells you to stay silent. She pinned the eaglet patch on Alex's jacket. Welcome to the legacy, Eaglet. Your voice saved 214 lives. Now use it to inspire thousands more. 6 months later, Grand Island Regional Airport, dedication ceremony. They gathered on the same runway where United Flight 1847 had landed. All 214 passengers. Captain Lisa Hammond and First Officer Marcus Webb. Every flight attendant. Alex Morrison's mother, Jennifer, holding Alex's hand and crying with pride. Grandma Morrison, Eagle's mother, wearing Eagle's old flight jacket. Chief Master Sergeant Hammer Hayes. Major Viper Chen. Dozens of Air Force personnel who'd served with Eagle. The Mayor of Grand Island. Representatives from United Airlines, Boeing, and the FAA. And news media from around the world. They were dedicating a memorial. A bronze statue, an eagle in flight, wings spread wide, with 214 smaller birds flying in formation behind it. The plaque at the base read. United Flight 1847. March 15, 2026. 214 souls saved through the courage of Alex Eaglet Morrison. Age 14. Who broke 3 years of silence to guide this aircraft to safety. Using techniques taught by their father. Colonel James Eagle Morrison, USAF. When silence ends, eagles fly. The ceremony included speeches from the mayor, from United CEO, from the FAA administrator. But the most important moment came when they asked Alex to speak. Alex stood at the podium, looking out at 214 people who shouldn't be alive. For a moment, words were hard again, that old familiar wall of anxiety, making speech feel impossible. Then Alex saw a small girl in the crowd, maybe 6 years old, holding her mother's hand. The little girl waved shyly. Alex smiled and waved back. And spoke, out loud, in front of hundreds of people, for the first time by choice rather than necessity. My name is Alex Morrison. For 3 years, I didn't speak to anyone because I was scared. I have something called selective mutism, which means that even though I can talk, anxiety makes it feel impossible. Every time I tried to speak, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, like if I said words out loud something terrible would happen. Alex paused, gathering courage. But my dad, Colonel James Morrison, call sign Eagle, he never made me feel broken. He taught me that heroes don't have to be loud. They just have to be ready. He taught me to fly when I was 7 years old. Not because he thought I'd need it, but because he wanted me to have knowledge. To have power. To have the ability to save myself and others if the moment ever came. Another pause. When the engines died on Flight 1847, I was terrified. But I heard my dad's voice so clearly, telling me to speak. To help. To use what he'd taught me. And for the first time in 3 years, I found my voice. Not because I stopped being scared, I'm still scared right now, talking in front of all of you. But because 214 people needed me more than I needed to stay silent. Alex looked directly at the crowd of passengers. You all thanked me for saving you. But I need to thank you. You saved me too. You gave me a reason to speak again. You showed me that my voice matters. That even a quiet kid who's been silent for years can make a difference when they find the courage to speak up. Tears were streaming down Alex's face now, but the words kept coming. My dad died saving 340 children by sacrificing himself. 4 years later, his knowledge saved 214 more people through me. His legacy isn't just about him. It's about what he passed on. What he taught. What he gave to the future. Alex pointed to the bronze eagle statue. That eagle represents my dad. And those 214 birds represent all of you. His courage saved you, even though he died 4 years before you needed him. That's what legacy means. That's what heroes do. They prepare the next generation. They pass on knowledge. They make sure that when they're gone, their wisdom lives on. The little girl who'd waved earlier walked forward, holding a piece of paper. She handed it to Alex. It was a crayon drawing, an airplane with, "Thank you Eaglet," written in wobbly letters, and lots of little stick figures holding hands beneath it. The girl whispered, "I get scared to talk sometimes too. But you showed me that when it's really important, we can be brave." Alex knelt down and hugged the little girl. "You can always be brave," Alex whispered back. "Even when you're scared. Especially when you're scared. That's what my dad taught me. And now I'm teaching you." The crowd erupted in applause. 214 people standing, clapping, crying, cheering. For a quiet kid who'd found their voice when it mattered most. 4 years later, present day, United States Air Force Academy. Cadet Alex Eaglet Morrison, age 18, walks across the parade ground in full uniform. 4 years of gradual healing. 4 years of speech therapy, slowly rebuilding the ability to communicate verbally without the crushing weight of anxiety. 4 years of public speaking at conferences and schools, teaching other kids with selective mutism that silence is okay, but so is speaking up when you're ready. 4 years of advocacy work, helping create support programs for children with communication disorders. 4 years of honoring Eagle's legacy. Tomorrow morning, Alex will solo in an F-15 Eagle for the first time, the same aircraft Eagle flew, with the same call sign, Eaglet, officially registered with the Air Force. On Alex's flight suit, above the Eaglet patch, is another patch with a simple number, 394. Beneath it, embroidered in gold thread, "When silence ends, eagles fly." Air Force Academy Chapel, late evening. Alex stands alone at Eagle's memorial plaque one more time. Places a hand on the cold marble. Speaks out loud, easily now, naturally, the way Eagle always hoped Alex would. "Dad, I start flight training tomorrow. Real F-15s, just like you flew. They're letting me use your call sign. Eaglet. I'm going to make you proud." A pause. "I'm not scared to talk anymore." Well, sometimes I am. Anxiety doesn't just disappear. But I've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's speaking up anyway. Finding your voice anyway. Helping people anyway. You taught me that. Alex looks up at the chapel ceiling, stars visible through the high windows. 214 people are alive because you taught me. Hundreds more have been saved worldwide because the Morrison Protocol is now standard pilot training. Your techniques, your knowledge, are saving lives every single day, even though you've been gone for 8 years. Tears, but happy ones this time. That's immortality, Dad. Not living forever. But teaching something so valuable that it outlives you. You're still saving lives. Still teaching. Still flying. Through me. Through every pilot who learns your techniques. Through everyone who hears your story and finds courage to speak up when it matters. Alex straightens to attention and salutes the memorial plaque, a sharp, precise military salute. Call sign Eagle, this is call sign Eaglet. Thank you for everything you taught me. Thank you for making me practice 394 times. Thank you for preparing me. Thank you for believing that a quiet kid with anxiety could become a hero. I'll carry your legacy forward. I promise. A gentle breeze blows through the chapel, stirring the air. Alex smiles. I know, Dad. I know you're proud. I can feel it. Around the world, the Morrison Protocol in action. Since Alex's landing, the Morrison Protocol has been credited with saving 47 additional aircraft worldwide that experienced engine failures. A British Airways 737 over the Atlantic, a Qantas A320 over the Australian outback, and Air France A330 over the Sahara Desert, dozens more. Thousands of pilots have trained in Alex's techniques. Eagle's knowledge, refined and proven by Alex, is now standard curriculum at every major flight school worldwide. Grand Island Regional Airport, the Memorial. Families visit the Bronze Eagle statue regularly. Pilots making cross-country flights sometimes divert to Grand Island just to see where the miracle landing happened. The little girl who gave Alex the crayon drawing, now 10 years old, returns every year on the anniversary with her family. She's no longer afraid to speak. She wants to be a pilot when she grows up. Because a quiet kid showed her that heroes come in all forms. United Flight 1847, 214 souls saved by a 14-year-old who hadn't spoken in 3 years, until silence meant death. Colonel James Eagle Morrison died in 2020, saving 340 children. Saved 214 more through his child 4 years later. Saved countless more through the Morrison Protocol. Legacy, eternal. Alex Eaglet Morrison, age 18. Former selective mute. Anxiety warrior. 1,847 flight hours at age 14. Now training to become an Air Force fighter pilot. Proved that heroes don't need to be loud, they just need to speak when it matters most. Call sign, Eaglet. Silent for 3 years. Found their voice at 37,000 feet. Spoke when the engines died. And 214 people lived because a quiet kid finally had something important to say. The loudest heroes are sometimes the ones who've been silent the longest, waiting for the moment their words matter most. When everything fails. When everyone panics. When death seems certain. That's when eagles fly. And that's when quiet voices become the loudest sound in the world. And sometimes the most important thing a parent can teach a child isn't how to be fearless, it's how to be brave anyway.